Hey, what's up, good family? How are you guys today? Welcome to our masterclass today. Super excited to have you guys tune in and tap into another amazing opportunity for us to come together, right? And just share experiences, education, knowledge. These masterclasses are meant for us to be able to just dive into this like 1 hour block of time to be able to one just learn from these amazing individuals that we have on these master classes, but secondly, most importantly, for us to be able to take a deep dive into our own journey as it relates to entrepreneurship, as it relates to mindset, and everything that's applicable in our lives and in our business. So I am excited to have you guys here today. My name is Joseph Trujillo. I'm the host of today's masterclass that's being featured by Dream Chasers. Dream Chasers is an organization in my community of over 15,000 agents globally, right? We're predominantly in the United States, but we're also in an international platform as well. So we're really excited for all of us to come together, no matter where you're at. If you guys are in here in the United States or globally, we are streaming live and direct today on many different platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So today is an exciting day, and we have an exciting guests. So today, I would love to be able to give an introduction to one of my close friends and one of the most profound entrepreneurs that I know. Today, team, we are welcoming just a powerful class today. Today's going to be a masterful class, and we've titled it La Fuerza Latina, Real Estate Vehicle for Leadership and Legacy, and you will soon see exactly why we made this the title of today's class. So today we're incredibly honored to have with us, as I mentioned, just a true force, a beacon in the real estate industry. She's a Latina powerhouse that has broken barriers, not just here in our local community in California, but domestically and internationally. She is I always love this fact about her. She's a USC graduate, go Trojans. She broke barriers in the real estate space in the mortgage industry, and then that transitioned into a phenomenal ongoing career in real estate. She's a former broker owner of a Keller Williams franchise, and then about, if I'm not mistaken, about 6 years ago or so, maybe seven-ish, she found this amazing opportunity, and it started with an idea. She's always been somebody that I've always respected. I think she always attributes that one of her gifts is she finds opportunities early, right? And I love that about her. And I'm going to definitely tap into that question about how she's able to have that gift of discernment in business. But without further more, her impact never stopped there. Now she leads a group of over 3,000 plus agents. We'll get that exact number here shortly. She's a mother, a wife, phenomenal friend of mine. And she's just a testimony of an example of what's possible when your vision meets your purpose. So without further ado, I would love to welcome my friend, Rosie Rodriguez, to the stage. Rosie, what's up? I can't hear you. Hey, Pat, let's help Rosie with her audible. All right. Can you hear? You can hear me though, right? Okay. So this is just a little technical difficulty. Why don't we do this, Rosie? I'm going to remove you to the back of the stage. We'll reset your audio and then we'll bring you right back on. Awesome. So as our team goes back there and mics her up adequately, just a few things as we go through this class. Here's what you guys can expect, right? These master classes are set up for about a 45, 50-minute increment where these amazing entrepreneurs such as Rosie will come on and they're going to share insight, wisdom. There will be specific questions that I'll be asking, but we really want you guys to have some key takeaways. So I'm going to encourage you guys, how you show up for one thing is how you show up for everything. So make sure you guys tap into the comment box here. any questions, any comments that you had. Would love to have you guys be able to tap back in. Rosie, I can hear you, I think.
Yes, I can. I think I can hear me too. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You're back. You have a voice.
I have a voice. I have a voice. This is one thing that we're always learning something new. This is a new system. Of course, Joseph is on the forefront of technology and just adding amazing value, to our community. And so I just learned how to use this thing. Thank you so much.
Let's go. Yeah, we're like, Zoom is cool, but we're gonna go live and direct, and we're gonna take this worldwide. So why not, right?
I love it. I love it. And I love your, the heading today, or the theme today, is La Fuerza Latina.
Yes.
I think one of the things that that we have in common is just really kind of growing up in a very basic, humble beginnings, if you will.
Yes.
And then being able to really use that Fuerza Latina to propel us forward. And that entrepreneurial spirit that we have in our community, which thrives in our community. And we've seen that in so many ways inside of the home ownership space, right? And the growth of our market driven by the Latino community. So I love the theme. Thank you for the invitation, Joseph.
Absolutely. No, I thought the theme was perfect for you. After about 20 different options, I'm like, that's Rosie, right? And the second part about legacy is just phenomenal. But take us back really quick. For those that don't know Rosie Rodriguez, never had an opportunity to be able to be in business or know you personally. I love your story that you share often about how, like you said, adversities growing up, but you ended up, in an opportunity to be in college. And then that college experience led you into the mortgage industry.
Yeah.
From USC to mortgage. Like, tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the very condensed version is that very, very early on, my parents both passed of illness when I was 13 and 15. And we, many years later, lost our home as a result of just, life situations and whatnot. And that was a very big, that was impactful for me. Not so much because we lost the home, but because I know how hard, I remember seeing my father working, like literally one of the images that I have of my father was just coming home from work, with the smell of grease and, he was a very, very hardworking man. So to know that we lost our home was just a blow because it was very personal. And my goal when I was in high school was, okay, great. We still lived in the home in high school, by the way. But one day I really want to do, what was drilled to us was just education. You have to educate yourself. So through high school, I had to figure out how's I going to get to college. And just on a fluke, I applied to USC. I'm like, well, let's just see, let's just try it. Let's just see. And I ended up getting accepted. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to USC. And that was exciting. So my goal at that time, while I was in college, is when we lost the home. And I said, okay, one day I want to buy this house back. I want to, I want to honor, their hard work. And we bought a home. I was married in college too. I just, for fun, got married at 21. Why not? And so I did not understand any of that process, Joseph. And it was very confusing. I'm like, this is like our entire life savings. We bought this house and I don't understand where the money went. What are points? What are fees? What's escrow? Like, how come only this much went to our down payment? So I said, once I graduate from college, I would love to be able to learn this business and help other people understand how this works. I think most of it was just not understanding. And when I don't understand something, I'm going to like figure it out. But then that led to me helping other people. And that's how the USC went into mortgage. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. And you didn't just go into mortgage. Like you were crushing it.
I guess so.
Yeah. That's the word on the street.
So yeah, when I figured it out, like the first month, and this was kind of like a little proud moment. The first month that I worked at the company I was at, it was an ad in the paper, by the way. I just applied and I was hired. And I was given, like a lot of us in real estate, believe it or not, in a corporate environment, I was just given a big old stack of like, it was like the fax paper way back when, right? And they said, here, call everybody. And I'm like, okay. So I was just calling people and they gave me an application. They said, fill this out. And I remember my very, very first application was one of my accounts, because little known fact, I was a bud girl for like a month, and not the one in the bathing suit. Okay. I know you would think, but it wasn't. It was actually, I was a sales representative in the marketing side. And so one of my accounts was the fish market in San Pedro, for those of you in Southern California. And the guy there, I'm like, look, I'm doing a new job. He goes, yeah, sure. I've been thinking about refinancing. And I went back to that guy, like literally probably about a dozen times, just to fill out every little piece of that application on the loan application. I didn't know I didn't have to. I just was following instructions. So anyways, the long story short is that first month, I actually beat the top producer and I didn't know it. And they said, well, how do you think you could have done? I said, I could have done better, because I always think you can, right? It's just how I was wired. I went on there to manage, open up an office in West LA. And then after that, I realized that there was much more I could do on the broker side of the world. And I worked for a broker for about a year. I was about efficiency and speed. And so I decided to open up my own. They were at a slower pace. They were focused on investing. I wanted to grow a mortgage, and we did that. And so with the team of about, well, personally, I carried a pipeline of about 60 clients, and I would close an average of 15 loans a month, which was, I think, a lot at the time.
Wow. Yeah.
And then my office, we did about 50 with a handful of trained. I trained them from the beginning, loan officers, and so we were probably closing about, what would that be, about 600 transactions a year with a team of about 6 or 7. And to date, I don't say this much, but I kind of did the math, and I think we've funded over 5 billion in transactions in the last 20 plus years. So yeah. You don't often speak to that, so that's quite an accolade there. Yeah, I don't. But here's the thing, that what I learned in that, Joseph, is just that I love helping people, and I learned to love just like figuring things out. And that skill set has translated into everything that has been done since then. It's like, okay, how does this work? How can we make it work? How do we figure it out? And of course, that reward that we all get when people are like, oh my God, I'm so happy, because you help them with this huge life-changing moment. That's like a selfish interest. Like, I just want more of that. How can I make people cry? Right? That's the goal.
Yeah. What would you say was your biggest like perspective change, like going from mortgage primarily into like the real estate brokerage space?
Well, I'll tell you that, this is funny, but it's true. It's true, guys, that when I started in the mortgage, I worked for a national retail operation, which was a business. I had to be there at 9, in the morning. All my people I hired had a schedule and whatnot. So when I opened up my mortgage operation, I didn't know any better. That's what it was. People were like, can I do part-time? I'm willing to learn. So funny. You hear that from people a lot. Don't ever tell somebody you're willing to learn, because it's like, well, that's great. You're talking to the teacher. Are they willing to teach is the question, right? And I would only take people that were full-time. That's how we start with the dancing part of it. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. So anyhow, I ran my business like a business, and we had a schedule, and we had expectations, we had meetings, we had goals. It was run like a corporation. So my big rude awakening when I opened up the Keller Williams office, which I had for about 10 years, we had about 200 agents when I brought on a partner. But it was just how little structure and discipline was taught inside of the real estate space in general. It was more of like going to community college and you show up to class and, and then you have a couple of people that are really good students and they show up every day and they do their work and they excel and they become like the class president. And then you have a lot of people who just kind of show up from time to time and they're trying to play catch up, like, oh, how do I do this again? And the way that most real estate offices are run, even now, is more of like a customer service desk, where there aren't a lot of um, companies that offer like the structure, like that we offer. We offer a structured 6-week program, like this is how you run your business. But that's even new because that hasn't really been the case. So the lack of education around building your business has been the biggest rude awakening to me, where I've, I realized that's just not taught. And if people were taught that from the get-go, there would be a lot more agents crushing it in real estate.
Wow. That's an interesting perspective. So what would you say that could be changed now? Like what kind of impact can be applied now to be able to put that into practice?
Yeah. Well, this is just because I know it exists and I'm a part of it. But the 6-week program that we have, which is a 1 hour, 3 times a week with live instruction, that has been really phenomenal for us, because it has accountability built in. You're learning specifically, we can all plug into like a real estate contract class. You could probably just go to YouTube or ChatGPT and say, teach me this. And, super simple. But how to run your business, I think that's one thing that I would say has given us phenomenal results, with almost 4 transactions under contract in 6 weeks. So that's phenomenal. It's nationwide. It's really cool that you get to learn from other people across the country and even internationally. So I'm a big fan of that. The whole company's a big fan. We have like 1,000 students every time, and we have subgroups and all kinds of stuff. But outside of that, I think who you're connected to, like who are you following, right? Who are you following? If you are not following anybody and you're just kind of like figuring it out on your own, that would be one big tip. Find someone who is modeling the behavior and the results that you are wanting to achieve, and start modeling, like start following what they're doing. You don't even have to ask permission, by the way. Like if I wanted to be like Joseph, I would definitely be upping my my branding and my swag, right? Because like he is all about all of that. But he runs his business very professionally, like a business. He prepares all the time adequately. He's very open-minded, and he's always about the team, right? So again, I don't need his permission to model him. I can just start mimicking those behaviors. So one of the tips that I would give everybody is find those people that you admire at a super high level. If you can book a call with them and have a little strategy session, like tell me about you, how do you run your day, how do you run your business, best tip, all that, start there. And once you're really working, Joseph, on becoming a different version of yourself. I never want to be Joseph. Joseph is Joseph, and he's got his own gifts and talents and who he is. However, there is a version of Rosie that can incorporate more of the things I admire about Joseph, right? Just like with you guys out there, there's things that you could do that can model that top producer, or, that investor, or, whatever you're looking for.
Yeah, that's such a good point, right? Our authenticity of ourselves, to be able to accentuate that, is a gift that I think a lot of people definitely overlook.
And I'll tell you, if you get the opportunity to kind of hang out with those people in some kind of a business format, that's even better. And the reason I say that is because I do believe that you become the average of the 5 people that you hang around. And so, and that's kind of like a scientifically proven thing with energy, which is another conversation. But, when you surround yourself, what you surround yourself with is what you will eventually become. And I've seen that over and over again. I've seen super amazing young individuals. And then like, I start seeing like, oh my God, they're at all the mixers and they're not producing, and I don't see them socially, like, on social. I don't see them at open houses. And then I see the opposite, where it's like, oh, this person is at all the classes and they're in all the meetings. And now I start seeing they're booking deals. So who you surround yourself really, really matters.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Such a great, powerful message for those that are even those that are coming in or have been around for some time. You can always realign, right? So I think sometimes when people get stuck in the mud where they've been operating the same way, maybe for some time, and it doesn't work, but they don't step into a new opportunity. So for those that find themselves in that challenge point, right, where they're stuck or they're not moving forward or their trajectory isn't what they expected, what kind of instruction would you give a person like that?
Well, I think the first conversation that you have is with yourself, because a lot of the times our ego gets in the way. And so, and it would go something like, well, no, like I said I was going to go to the meetings and I haven't been going, like I'm embarrassed, or, I keep forgetting this, or, I didn't go to the gym today, like those conversations. So we beat ourselves up when we do not succeed the first time, or the second or the seventh or whatever it is. So being able to have a conversation with yourself and saying, okay, that sucked, but today's a new day and I'm going to show up, right? And being okay with what you accomplish that day. Like, this is my goal today, taking it one day at a time. And, if for example, I had something I was supposed to do for Joseph, and I'd be like, hey, Joseph, you know what? Bear with me. I am a work in progress, sir, but I'm going to keep showing up, right? Keep showing up. So just keep showing up.
There you go. Yeah. Give yourself some grace, right? Like you're so exactly right, Rosie. I've spoken to so many agents, and they get into this tailspin, right? Where they don't show up for themselves first. Like you said, you gotta take care of Ace. And then they go into a tailspin where they start to disappoint themselves. They're not true to their word. And it's hard to be true to other people when you're not true to yourself. So we continuously notice that, but we'll continue to invite you. That's why we have these calls, these opportunities, these events, these collaborations for you to step out into something brand new, a new day, a new opportunity. And this is a community for that.
And it's a new skill. Okay. I want to emphasize that, because I was helping, my daughter has a health clinic. And of course, being mom, I'm like all about learning everything. And I'll tell you that the language was completely foreign to me. And so I had to really pay attention to what is this? What does this mean? Go back and Google stuff, ask questions. And so what's your perspective, right? My perspective is, oh my gosh, I get to learn and I just don't know anything. But it was a new skill that I had to practice. Like, oh, what's that word again? What does that mean again? How does this work again? So when you are practicing the behaviors of top producers, that is a new skill for you. And you're not expected to just one day have it nailed down. When you say give yourself grace, yes, but also kick your own ass. Excuse my French, right? Like, okay, you know what? What do I need to do? I need to put an alarm in place, or I need to schedule that time for social media, or I need to, get a VA for my branding or my graphics or whatever. So everything is a new skill, and you are a work in progress. And the version of yourself that you will meet in 12 months is different than the version of yourself that you have today. So just know. Yeah.
Yeah. So good. So good. I would love to be able to integrate that into leadership, right? And so I would love to talk for a second to those that are running teams, or maybe independent broker owners, or you're running your own group. I had shared at the beginning of this in the intro that one thing that I loved about you is that you have this gift of discernment to be able to find opportunity before it blossoms, right? So first, I'd love two-part question. I want you to speak to that as it relates to EXP. How did you even come across that opportunity, and how you've seen that gift start to blossom amongst your network of 3,000 plus people and the life-changing opportunities that it's presented for itself?
Well, excuse me. The how did I see that with EXP? Okay, I think that it's not exclusive to that decision that I made 7 years ago. Okay. The question for anybody who's watching or listening is, how do you approach your business, your life? When I say that, I've always been very curious. Like, my name is Rosie. I used to get teased, nosy Rosie. Why do you ask so many questions? Because I want to know, right? So just stay curious. Stay curious when you are talking to someone. There's a lot of people that get in a conversation and you just can't wait to tell them all about all the things that are going on in your life, good, bad, indifferent, whatever it is. So that's great. However, you're not learning anything in that conversation, right? So what I've always been very good at is just listening and paying attention and being curious. Now, all those things are great. However, you can approach that with the mentality of, oh, but I know better, right? Or you can approach it with the mentality of like, open mind. Let me find out more about this. Let me stay curious. Let me be open. So the way that I came across this opportunity 7 years ago, which has been one of the best decisions of my entire life, was simply being open and curious and saying, okay, this is different. This is new. I'm used to this. I already know this playground, right? Where I've been and had an office, franchise, all that good stuff. I already know that. I don't know this. And then it's great to have curiosity and be open, but then it doesn't do us any good if we don't take any action. So the second part to that was, let me take a look. What is my worst case scenario? And I apply that to just about everything, especially in investment decisions. Okay. If you're thinking about this or that, what's my worst case scenario? So my worst case scenario for me, because I was a broker, 100%, I didn't pay anybody anything, just my own E&O, my own liability, my own expenses, which is actually more than I pay now. Yes, it was my own, bunch of stuff to carry. So I figured it was going to cost me $16,000, right? Moving into this space. So that's what it was going to cost me. That's my worst case scenario. But then what's my best case scenario, right? And my best case scenario was like pretty awesome. By the way, my best case scenario was like 20 people. Like that was, I was like, in a couple, 2-3 years, I'll have like 20 people on my group that I would coach and support, and it would be great. We'll have this great community. So my best case was, I was pretty much not going to, lose anything. I was just going to be able to break even, so to speak, in this model that we have. I was going to learn, and learning is so important to me. So I think for anyone, and again, this applies to anything. If you're thinking about, how can I do something different? What if this is a good idea? What if this is a good opportunity? Like, just keep an open mind and stay curious. And if you operate life that way, Joseph, like, all of us will be really good at identifying opportunities ahead of its time, because you're paying attention. It's the people that put their head in the sand and say, this is the way it is, that, you're never going to see anything differently, because you're not open to it.
Wow, that's powerful. So what I hear you sharing is that now this curiosity, right, this discovery mind, is that like your compass now for all of your business decisions?
It is it's not just on the business side, it's also on the personal side. I'll say it's just how I really work at operating, always with stay curious and stay open. I'm going to share like a personal note. one of the things that taught me this, and I think I have, oh yes, I do. This is one of my books, okay, on my shelf.
Uh-huh.
And it's how to talk so kids will listen. Like yeah, and listen so kids will talk back. So that's the funny thing, that I had teenagers, and my teenagers are now young women, but I was trying to like, how do I get across these little hormonal beings, right? They're
Yeah.
girls. And somebody told me about this book, and I recommend it to everybody. It's one of the best business books that you could find, because it really teaches you to listen. And so what I have, my own saying that I created out of this was, I already know what I have to say. I already know what's in my brain. I already know my knowledge. I already know what I can contribute. I know what I have. I don't know what you have to say, your opinions, your feelings, your thoughts. So when we talk about business, when you walk into a business opportunity, it's not about what you already know. It's about learning about what that person has to share. I can guarantee you, like for me, if I spend 1 hour with you, I would love to be enriched by something about you, or learn something that you have to share, that I could take away, right? I would love that. I am not here to tell you all about me. Okay. I already know all about me. There's no growth there. So, if you apply that in business, if you apply that in like just in life, you will find that you're going to grow that much quicker, and you're going to form a lot more relationships, and you're going to come across a lot more opportunities.
That is so good. Yeah. You had me reflecting a little bit. I remember when I was in government service, they used to teach us too, right? Be like, any meeting you go to, sit down, listen, and be the last one to speak. And you'll always end up reaching your objective on it. So that's phenomenal. I love that. And man, think about how that pours into people, right? Because people want to be heard. People want to have their voice. And you being the leader that you are, for you to give them that space, that opportunity to be able to share with you instead of being dictated to, is a game changer.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So if you guys want to practice with your kids, because they're the best at telling you, like, we don't want to hear you, like, but
Yeah.
you'll learn a lot. And again, just in opportunities, you'll find so many, because you're like, wow, stay curious, be open.
Awesome. Well, I'm curious now, so let's tap into that opportunity. With you being, obviously, you're a top tier business leader. How does your personal life, you being a mother and a wife, like, what boundaries do you have in place to be able to, like, protect both of those sanctuaries of your life?
Yeah. So I always call myself a work in progress. Okay. Because I have gone through roller coasters of emotions around that. Early on, I remember I went through like a period of time where I'm just like, I am horrible, because I was so spread thin, and I felt like I'm just a horrible mother, I'm a horrible wife. Like, and I think for women in particular, like, we go through that because genetically, like, we're just wired to always worry about and care. Like, are we doing what we could do, everything that we could do for our family, right? For our loved ones. However, what I learned, and somebody gave me this tip very, like, maybe within the first 10 years or 5 years of my business, I don't remember. They said, make sure to calendar your important rocks. And so now in my calendar, I specifically have, super specific. I have my morning time, like with my son, because between 7 and 8 a.m., that's when I have the 7 minutes he'll give me, right? Like after he showers and I make him breakfast and all that stuff.
Right.
And then the time that he gets home, where I pick him up. So that's my block. And so he's 17. He probably doesn't think I'm that cool. Like, he hasn't realized that yet.
Right.
So there's that, birthdays, communication, like with the, my older daughters, so my best tip is to time block those things as
Mhm.
just as important as they are, like your business meetings and your listing appointments and everything. You have to calendar that in, and then you have to learn the language on how to direct people to your calendar. So an example is you're talking to a client. Awesome. Like you could say, yeah, would you like to get together on Saturday? I can show you homes on Saturday or on Sunday. Okay, great. You just opened up all your Saturday and all your Sunday. For me, I hike on Saturdays or Sunday mornings, just, one hike or yoga. So I would say something like, okay, I could definitely do 11 o'clock on Saturday, or I can do, 4 p.m. on Sunday, whatever it is. So learn the language on how to give your people options, but those options are going to fit into your already preset built-in calendar. Okay? You know that, Sundays are for family, Saturday morning or afternoon, or I can also do Wednesday at 6 p.m., whatever it is. Okay? Manage your calendar. Learn to work work from your calendar, not just on a whim.
Yeah, that's so special too. And I agree with you. It's one thing that I instituted a few years back about putting our children, our spouses, our loved ones on your calendar. I remember really quick. I remember when my little one Penny looked at my calendar one time and she seen that I had her in pink, like she was on my calendar.
Yeah.
She was like, "Hey, Daddy, that's mine." And I told her, "Yes, you're important. You're on the calendar. So people equate that, and even the little ones do."
Yeah.
So,
And like I said, you don't have to be perfect. Like there's going to be times, where it's like, okay, like I'm out of town, right? So, okay, I'm not going to be there that day, but
mhm.
you're aiming for 80%, not 100.
Yeah.
You're aiming for 80%. And all that being said, like one of the things that when my daughter says, how do you think, like, do you think that, how do you think you did as a mom, right? My older one. And I
Uh-huh.
said, I think I did okay. And she's like, okay, like how did you deduct that? I go, let me ask you, like, did you feel loved? Like, yeah. And I asked my kids, do you feel loved? And I think that love in the feeling is one thing, and also love in the verb, right? And so when we're talking about how do I balance my calendar, make sure that your calendar or your time, how you measure, make sure your time, your 24 hours reflects your priorities, and it comes from love. Like you love your business, you love your kids, all that stuff. But, I can't emphasize that enough. I work around my Google Calendar. I look at it probably at least 2 or 3 times a day. What do I have going on today? What do I need to prepare for? Oh, that's the other thing. Make sure that you build in time for preparation. Sometimes we dropped off the kids. Now we're off to our appointment. So you have to build in on a regular basis, 30 minutes at least. I'd recommend an hour of prep time. And this is time that you're working intentionally, like on the business, not in the business.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I think we just touched on your new book,
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah, I think we just touched on your new book, and I want to thank you for giving us like not the perfect answer about parenting. I think this standard that we hold to ourselves to sometimes isn't realistic, right? And so having an authentic conversation about that is phenomenal. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
One last thing I'll say about that is that one of the reasons we feel so pressured around that is because we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. So if you say, I want to make $500,000 in real estate, and I know it's going to take 700 calls a day and like all that stuff. One of the mistakes that we make is that we overestimate what we can accomplish in the short run, and we underestimate what we can accomplish in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
And so take a look at what you have outlined for yourself in terms of your goals. And it's okay to, instead of saying, I want to do this in the next 6 months, I can stretch out this goal to reach this high in 2 years if I have a 3-year-old at home, right? Because in 2 years, they're going to be in preschool or whatnot. So it's okay to stretch it out. It's not a race. You're going to get there, right? Give yourself the time to get there and still enjoy the journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially when we're like managing all these different facets of life, right? Business. And you're a really great testimony to that. Cause I mean, aside from other, just managing all the intricacies of a 3,000 plus organization, right? You also take on other leadership roles such as EXP Latino president. So I wanna have you tell us a little bit about that, but specifically how in the real estate industry there's a lane and an opportunity for like this Fuerza Latina to be so important right now. Could you speak to that, please?
It is absolutely. I think being a Latina, Latino, or speaking Spanish, like being in this space in this time is an incredible opportunity. Okay, and it didn't come as clear to me until I flipped the conversation in my mind. I'll share what I'm saying. So one of the reasons that I jumped into the EXP Latino space and in the leadership is because there was a need to be, perfectly blunt. I saw that, the company wanted to grow in this space. I'm very passionate. I was born in Mexico and I was raised here, but I'm very close to my culture. And I love the culture because it's about people and family and food and dancing and music and all those things. Anyways. But when I learned recently, and this is in the last maybe 3 or 4 years, is I learned that the growth of the homeownership space, like 67% of the growth in the homeownership space will be from Latinos, okay, the Latino community. So if you're thinking like a business, you're thinking, oh my gosh, it would probably be a good idea for me to position myself in such a way where I, people will come to me, or I have that market, right? With the current environment, with so much fun stuff going on, and one of the very, very objective things that I can share is the elimination of the ITIN programs, and the cancellation of some of the immigration processes. I don't have all the details on, DACA and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
From my perspective, this is a community that like the ITIN community, they had to come in with typically around 20% down, right, on a $600,000, $500,000 house. That's $100,000 to invest. People who can come up with $100,000 to put into a home are likely not going to walk away. So that was a big portion of a market or segment that, I think is now limited, right? They can't move in that space. That being said, we still have like the FHA, which also has some modifications that came out, but we still have FHA products. We still have conventional products. So the growth, 67% is projected to be in the Latino community. I would definitely focus on, that community. The flip of the switch conversation came because I was thinking, wow, like, so I'm Latina, hablo español, I'm very comfortable in my skin, who I am. So I don't really think about it because it's common nature for me to talk to family and friends, right?
Right.
But then I think, what if 67% of the growth was in the Japanese community? I'm not Japanese, guys. I mean, my eyes sometimes, but I am not Japanese. So if I knew that, I'd be like, man, like I am at such a disadvantage. Like I don't know Japanese, and it would take me a lot of work to learn Japanese. It's not an easy language to learn. And I would know that everybody out there who was Japanese would be like crushing it. Like, oh my God, I wish I was Japanese in my real estate career, right? So anybody who speaks Spanish or Latino, you're that person that people wish they were, because they knew that like you don't only have the English, Spanish speaking community, you also have the Spanish speaking community, like double the opportunity to succeed. How are you taking advantage of it?
Crazy.
So, yes.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. You're right. I mean, as Latinos, we are literally perfectly positioned to be able to capture market share opportunity. The numbers don't lie. 67% it's unheard of.
And the big thing about that is that you're really helping create wealth for families. You're really helping make a change. Yes, and it's a community that needs more support and more education. So it's, rewarding on that level as well,
Wow. So big, so big. And I had the pleasure of working alongside with you at EXP Latino. How many members are participating in EXP Latino right now?
Yeah, so EXP Latino, we have over 5,000 members inside of our community. I will tell you that because of being and getting involved in EXP Latino, we were instrumental in creating the Fast Cap program, the 6-week program that I talked to you about, live
Right.
training in Espanol.
Let's
And
go.
so, and the fun part about that, you're always surprised when you come from contribution, right? You're like, okay, how can we make this happen? Let's get to work. We have people from Italy and from Spain in these classes. I'm like, what? Like, I had a guy come up to me at one of the regional rallies that we do, and he says, hey, I'm part of the Fast Cap en Español program. I'm like, really? He goes, my accountability partner is from Italy. And he was like, I'm so glad that they offered this in Spanish because it was easier for him to understand Spanish than English. So, what can come of that? Oh my gosh, I don't know. We're going to be in Barcelona in end of June. And talking to todos nuestra comunidad española. The world is so big, Joseph. And so para los latinos tenemos una comunidad increíble. Siendo parte de esta comunidad, tienes la oportunidad de conectarte con la gente de nuestra comunidad, to obtain referrals. You know how easy it is to find. I need somebody in Spanish. I'm in like Florida. I'm in California. So being a part of a company that not only has that diversity in place, not because they're trying to check a box, just because that's who we are.
Yeah.
But then our leader, Leo Pareja, is Colombiano, and he's fire. Like, he's all about let's go and grow. So.
Oh yeah, it's so big, and it's awesome to be able to see like all these countries come on board, like we just launched in Ecuador, right? And so as all these, countries in Latin countries populate and they have a built-in community already,
yes,
right? For them to tap in and grow, like the learning curve is just diminished.
Yes.
So I love that.
And talk about opportunities. I mean, who invests in the US? Every other country, right? And so we have our global portal where we have listings from all over the world in one place. Like, how cool is that, right? Because we all have like, oh, my uncle in Mexico wants to sell. And so do you know somebody in Mexico or, other countries? Mostly I get a lot of Mexico. So, but it's not just your own little world anymore, especially for Latinos. Latinos, it's like next to English, you got Spanish all over the world, right? El Salvador, Peru, we just opened Peru, Guatemala, estamos en Mexico, en España, in Colombia. Like, it's one world. And by the way, just a little plug here, if you guys want to hang out with our world, last year at our EXP Latino Bash, which has now earned the reputation of being the place to be at our annual convention, we had 12 country leaders at our event. And I had South Africa ask me to, hey, he started salsa dancing with me. And it was like this funny, goofy South African man. And, he's like, this was the best event because we brought people together and all the country leaders were hanging out and, listen to the music, connecting, smoking cigars. I don't do that, but some people do. So,
what can you say? You can't blame us for bringing the sauce, So.
Right? Yes. It feels like home. It feels like home for people that are curious about well, what do you guys have? It feels like home. So
it does. I remember when we were working together in that space, and I would love for you to speak to the Latinas specifically out there. There was a majority of the agents in the group. I don't remember the statistic, but there was a large Latina community, right? And you being a leader in the space, I would love for you to share a little bit of vision on what the next generation of Latina leaders looks like in real estate.
Oh, wow. We're just going to take over the world.
How did I know you were going to say that? Yeah.
Well, here's the thing that, and it's not exclusive to to Latinos, but this is what I can speak on because I am Latina, right?
Okay.
I am sure it's present in many different cultures, but the next generation of Latinas in real estate, I think Latinas, period, show up with a different level of grit and determination and resilience. And I say that because most of my experience, especially if you're like first generation or whatnot, you're still like, raised with certain expectations or certain morals or traditions where, you have to pick up your plate, right? Help out around the house. You're expected to clean. You're expected to go to school. You're expected to go to church. There's discipline. There's so many things in our community that are taught that now when we take it into business, right? You keep that humildad o siendo amable para las personas. Like if you're tending to clients, you bring a different level of care because that's what you're taught when you're growing up and the family's coming over. And then loyalty, like that's big in our community as well. And so you're taught, how to form and long-term relationships and see people as people and not numbers, because we're very much culture based. And then we're around, how to bring people together. And so that's where the leadership space comes in. When you see places like EXP Latino, where we welcome Latino leaders, but Latinas. There's NAREP, that's another organization where you see you look into a room and even in our leadership group, like most of the people are Latinas porque somos bien trabajadoras. We've learned how to multitask in life because we had to take care of parents or kids or, like family and all at the same time. What that looks like in the future when you tie the cultural aspect, the work ethic, the hunger that we carry, the attitude, because we have a little attitude too. Like we're like, no, chingue su madre, lo vamos a hacer, right? And then you tie it with technology, Joseph. And that's one of the things that I'm really excited about inside of what we're learning in our company is now I get to tie the future, which is technology, with the past, which is the cultural, and then our ability to connect with people como Latinas, como Latinos. The next generation of Latinas is really going to be fire. And I love seeing young Latinas, jump into the space. Like I feel like they're my daughters, even though I'm probably like a sister because, like not there yet, but I do love, I love seeing them shine. I mean, and I know you're the same, like you just love seeing people shine and like, they're excited and they're working hard and they're like showing up and they're just like, I say I think they young Latinas today remind me of who I was trying to figure things out. And it's a privilege for me to be on the other side, a little bit on the other side, and be able to just give, some tips or some guidance and help shorten that growth gap.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I know we're speaking about Latinos and Latinas, but I mean, that's what I love about our community. It's so, I mean, we have every race and creed, color. I mean, and it's just a community of love and opportunity where everybody is growing and pouring into them in entrepreneurship. And I know we're getting here close to the top of the hour. I mean, I wrote so much great stuff down here, but a few little key things and my takeaways that I'm going to share is that you spoke about in the beginning: move with speed and urgency, remain curious, right? Make that your compass, calendaring, and then technology. If you could just implement those 4 things into our daily practice, it'll be a game changer for you. So any last parting words, Rosie, before we close out today? Would love to give you the floor.
Well, I think one of the things we didn't talk much about, I feel like I didn't emphasize a lot or enough, is just the production side of things. I know that, and this is a little known fact, but if we were to take the top 250 teams in our company, top 250 teams, look at their production, the transaction, all that, we would be the 5th largest brokerage in the country, just the top 250 teams.
Wow.
So I say that because I know we're talking about the Latino space and whatnot, but really the culture that we have, I just flew back from the Dallas Mastermind.
Right.
The culture that we have is about production. It's about growth, any size, color, shape, origin, whatever it is. If you're coming to play, you're coming to contribute, you're coming to learn, you have an open mind, like this is your playground. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, my friend, we had this beautiful opportunity to spend an hour with you. And I just want to, on behalf of Dream Chasers and all our business and verticals that come together for this community, just want to take a minute just to acknowledge you and thank you for your leadership, pouring into our community. You continue to do that. And we would love to welcome you back to another conversation and have you continue to enlighten us with your belief systems, with your skill sets and your entrepreneurship. It's an honor to be in business with you, my friend.
I would absolutely love to. We need a little female power up in here. So, you let me know. I'm here. I'm with you.
All right, good family. Let's give Rosie some love in the chat and make sure you guys stay connected with her. Rosie, where can they follow you on social?
At Call Rosie.
Call Rosie. All right, guys, show her some love. Let me put it in the chat really quick.
It's already there.
Some love. Give her a follow. Rosie, thank you again, my friend. We will see you on the flip side.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Bye, Rosie. All right, good family. Thank you guys so much for tapping in. That was phenomenal. That was an awesome conversation with Rosie. Again, just to be able to be in a masterclass space with people that are tapping into their own specialties, right? That's our aim here is as we continue to bring these classes that you guys are going to be able to learn different skill sets. Maybe people are tapping into different parts of the industry that you guys can take away from. So many nuggets. I hope you guys loved this call. Continue to follow us, guys. I'm going to put a link in the chat. If you guys haven't signed up for these master classes, go ahead and sign up with the link in the chat. We're also going to put it on our banner here. This is streaming live. So whether you've seen this live and direct today or you see it on YouTube or LinkedIn, register, tap into our classes. We're holding them every single Tuesday from 10 to 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And we aim to bring nothing but pure fire. All right, guys, you guys have a beautiful day. Stay blessed out there. Stay true. We'll see you guys next Tuesday.